Okay, wait.
Did you get it?
Okay,
Yeah, it looks great.
okay.
Okay. So, are you okay with us sharing this recording of your story publicly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you or anyone you mention in your story face prosecution or legal action due to any details you plan to share in your story?
Nope.
Sweet. Time is yours. You can identify however you want.
Okay. Is there any way this recorded right now, but you'll edit it out?
Yeah, we'll edit it out.
Okay. Is there any way that I can just see me on the screen?
Um,
Just, I think it would make me less nervous to pretend you're not there for a minute.
uh, how's this? I, I mean, then it's just a picture of Cameron. I don't know.
Sorry.
Is that better?
Okay. Yes, better.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. If you, yeah.
Ready?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name's Edana, and I have 169 days clean and sober today. Willie asked me on here to share my story, and so hopefully it will help somebody out there. I had a very good home life. My parents are still married. I have two older brothers. Um, the baby, only female. Um, what I've learned more as an adult is a lot of my trauma was related to being diagnosed ADD in the early to mid 90s. My mom would actually have to show up and give literature to the teachers because they didn't know what it was. I was the only kid that was taken out of class to go get my Ritalin. Teachers would kind of decide each year whether they wanted me on Ritalin or not. So there was a lot of bouncing around, off and on medications, which obviously can mess you up a bit. And there was a lot of judgment. It was, I was very much typecasted. The teachers, knew who I was before I even started. So, it was that um, did bring, a lot of insecurities and stuff into my life. I think that I always felt a little bit less than um, because of that. Um, the typecasting became worse and worse each year with the teachers, and by middle school, I was very much against any type of authority. Hugely disrespectful. I started getting a lot of trouble at school. Um, One of my saving graces, I would say, is I've always had really good friends. Um, Hung out with the kids that were, had their stuff together, and I was always kind of the wild one, and they really kept me at bay a lot of the time. So I was grateful for that. I did have a sexual experience in intermediate school that was not wanted, and it definitely fucked with me quite a bit. And my behavior, I think, became even more outlandish at that point, to the point in seventh grade where I threatened a substitute teacher, told her that I was going to kill her because she wouldn't let me go to the bathroom because she knew it was just me trying to get out of class for a while. She was smart. But I was, a little shit. I almost had to, like, she was going to, I guess there's charges that can be brought against you for stuff like that. And she was going to charge me. Everything kind of fell to the wayside when her daughter and I started cheering together, though. So that was good. But it just kind of shows how against authority that I was. I was always the popular kid. I never had problems with friends, making friends or anything like that. Um, in eighth grade, um, it was kind of, I think, a bit of a turning point. My mom had always been a stay at home mom. We lived 40 miles outside of Houston, Texas. And my mom decided to go back to work. And she would commute to and from with my dad, who also worked in Houston, um, 5 days a week. They would leave at like 5 in the morning, get home at 6:30 at night. So it was me and my two older brothers that just kind of ran the roost. So, excuse me, I think that was a pretty crucial time looking back. I think, there was just a lot of room for error, if you will. So, and we made errors. It was eighth grade that I first started using drugs. I think it was a year or two prior, I did drink wine, snuff wine at a family wedding. Um, but in eighth grade, I would try marijuana and mushrooms. And I definitely, the biggest part for me was hanging out. It was older people that introduced me to it. And I just thought it was very cool, but nothing really took too much at that time. I would smoke weed here and there. But my freshman year, I got kind of picked up by the older crew, which of course, you think is just the coolest thing. And so all my friends were 2 years older than me. And the reason that I share that is it'll become significant later. So freshman year, definitely a lot of pot, a lot of alcohol, and all my experiences with alcohol, I was a blackout. Um, and I never enjoyed my behavior on it. I would hear stories about myself the next day, and it was just so embarrassing. Um, so I had fun, did crazy things, but was also keeping my shit together. I was always an athlete. Soccer and cheerleading were my main, and those things tended to keep me out of trouble. Um, my sophomore year, I would find acid, and I really loved acid. Um, so my friends would test it on me, and they'd have me take it an hour before. And if I started crying from laughing so hard, then they knew it was good. So I did, that was my probably first one that I really first drug that I really enjoyed. Um, Along with that, I was a regular cigarette smoker at that time and smoked pot regularly and would start taking pills, lots of roofies, Valiums, Xanax, whatever I could get my hand on. Um, but it was more of a weekend party type thing situation still. The cigarettes were daily, the pot would sometimes be during the week, but I was still pretty much holding myself pretty well, um, considering. So everything kind of got crazy thereafter. It was the end of my sophomore year. I took a couple big blows. Um, One, I was not approved to cheer because of behavior. So all my friends went on to varsity cheer. I didn't get to go. And it was just a really big blow to my ego. Also, I had a really big blow to my ego with soccer that year as well. Both of them really, really affected my self esteem. Um, Another big thing that happened is the older people that I told you I was hanging out with, they just graduated. So now they're going off all to college, and I'm stuck by myself at school because all the friends that I grew up being friends with, I totally shit on when the older kids picked me up freshman year. So I could have gone back with my tail between my legs and apologized, but I was just too embarrassed. I didn't. I was just bummed that my friends left, and um, both exercise is just huge in my history. When I'm exercising consistently, I'm just doing better. Happier person, staying out of more trouble, the whole nine. So when those sports were taken from me, um, it it was just there was just too much time on my hands, and yeah. definitely a very sad year for me. So between sophomore and junior year, I was fortunate enough to be very, very close to the local dealer of pretty much everything, but mostly cocaine and ecstasy. And so it would be in between my sophomore and junior year that I would try both of those. And that's when everything got really gnarly, really, really fast. Um, this is, yeah. So, like I said, it was very abundant. Just something you couldn't even imagine as, a youngster. And it was very appealing to me. These people were a little bit older than me. I came from, a middle class home, maybe lower middle class. And these people came from the same type of backgrounds, but all of a sudden they're driving these pimp ass cars. They have this incredible beach house. They're wearing Armani clothes. Um, and they're just breaking off of the ounce to give me whatever I need. And it's just free blow all the time. And it was extremely excessive. And one of the biggest things I think appeals was, of course, you start losing weight. So that was, a very appealing aspect of it to me, but also just fitting in. And then I'm going to share this, and it's kind of detailed a little bit, but the reason why is because it was definitely a turning point for me. I was hanging out one night with these group of older people, and a gentleman took off, broke out an eight ball into threes, and asked me told me to, can you think you could snort that in one line? And I did without a problem. And after that, they called me Hoover. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what I can do better than everybody. No one can do drugs like me. um and that this is something going on that's very subconscious. But it definitely is. I've forgotten a lot of things over the years, and I've never forgotten that. So within that year, I would pretty much, it was very rare that I would go to school. Definitely no homework was done. Partying is now an everyday occurrence. And then soon I become, yet soon I would become a runaway. So I ran away from home, moved in to the fancy beach house I spoke of. And one day, waking up after a party, I found a bag with a couple ounces of blow and 248 X pills. And I had thought that it belonged to this real dickhead from the night before. So I stole it. And 24 hours later, I realized that it belonged to people that I actually really cared about. But it was too late. I was dove in deep, ended up moving or running away from there to a beach house that had holes in the floor, totally squatting, and just doing mass amounts of drugs. And the funny thing is, the drug that when I first started, I really, they gave me confidence. They made me just feel more comfortable around people, yada, yada. It was about this time that that comfort was no longer there. And the drug was very much using me, with the joy was being taken away. Don't get me wrong, there was some good times with that, but it was, looking back, it was mostly really, really dark. So I'm squatting at this house doing all of these drugs, worried that somebody was going to, come find me and find them at any moment. The person that I cared about had to, come up with the money to, so it's just, it cost him a lot of money. So it was just a really unfortunate thing. And somebody that was kind of upset about the situation told my parents where I was squatting. And I was picked up by CPS and taken to my first treatment center. I would stay there for 30 days. Oh, another thing that I didn't mention in there is all through that year, um, that I was a runaway, or if I was home, um, I just totally lost my train of thought there. I apologize. Um, totally lost it. So anyways, we'll just start at treatment. So yeah, so oh, what I was gonna say, this is what it is. Ding ding. I became a major shoplifter, big time. Like we're talking about thousands of dollars a day. So when I went to treatment, it was specifically for cocaine, pills, marijuana, and the shoplifting. When I found out where they were trying to take me, I tried to jump out of the vehicle. So I would end up riding the 90-minute drive in leather shackles from ankles to wrists. When I got there and I saw my parents sitting there sobbing because they're seeing their daughter an absolute total wreck. I mean, you have to think I've been living off, 2 ounces of blow and 248 X pills. So it was gross. And I spit in my parents' face. And then I told the rehab that my parents abused me, and that's why I was there. So, and that I wasn't a drug addict, all kinds of crap. So I was really, really hurting my family at this time, like bad. Um, so I got out of treatment and did some IOP. Um, and I think I stayed off cocaine for a little bit. I started messing around with it again for a couple of months, but then I met a guy who absolutely hated hard drugs. Um, so he and I would go on to date all through my senior year and a year and a half after high school as well. Um, so I wouldn't do cocaine for that amount of time. Instead, we were very, very serious about acid. And when I say serious, um, we were collectors of sorts of it. We had a large supply of it at all times. So, 10 hits of acid, 10 hits or 10 hits of acid with 10 roofies was just a normal Monday night for us, It was really extreme. And then in 1997, New Year's 97, five of us ate 20 hits of acid. And one of the guys just kind of lost his marbles and they're still not really there. So it was just an intense style of living. I got really, really skinny, which I loved that part. I think everyone thought I was still a cokehead, but I wasn't. But it was all day, every day, ingesting acid, pills, booze, and tons and tons of herb. So, um, about a year and a half after high school, we moved from my small town in Texas up to Austin. And we met a lot of people quickly because we were herb growers and brought excuse me, a lot of good pot to the town. So it wasn't hard to make friends. And of course, you're going to make party friends. And that's just what we did. The partying continued. It was extremely excessive and probably picked up a notch a bit. Um, I would soon make a couple of girlfriends and quickly leave my boyfriend and move in with them. And excuse me, I'm so sorry. So when I moved in with the girls, cocaine came back in quite quickly. Um, it wasn't anything too excessive at the time, but lots of drinking, lots of pot, um, lots of acid, tons of pills, and some pretty frequent cocaine evenings, you know. I'm going to take a drink of water, excuse me. Maybe I'll stop clearing my throat through the whole interview here. Um, so yeah, living in Austin, and the group of girls that I met, yeah, they partied a bit when they were younger, but they are still my best friends to this day. They are not addicts, they're normies, and they have supported me for the past 21 years in my addiction. They are still there, haven't faltered a bit. So super, super grateful for them. And then I met another guy. So met this guy. He was a big musician in town, and that was just not the type of person that I should date. I'm a very jealous person. Um, oh gosh, I would get crazy, crazy, crazy jealous until I realized that if I did a bunch of cocaine, that I would talk so much during the show, I would forget about the groupies and I wouldn't be watching the stage to see who's flirting with them, yada, yada. So cocaine came back in a very big way. About this time, I also started opiates, which to this day are my biggest struggle. um, so I would start taking a insane amount of Norcos, and I waited tables. So it was very easy to party at work, and I wouldn't work unless I had party stuff. So it was usually me just high as a kite on Norcos all day, and then come evening time, I'd do a bunch of cocaine and go out and watch my boyfriend's band. Um, and it got really, really bad. Um, I eventually started injecting, and I was pretty much self-taught. You know, back in those days, not everyone had a computer in the home, and I was a drug addict, so I most certainly did not. So there was no internet to look up how to do it. My friends don't party like that. So it was just me on my own, and it was really, really gnarly. I'd say about, in these days, I was probably about an 8 ball a day, typically, and then, you know, all the Norcos and tons of booze. um, but when I started injecting, it got really bad really quick. And one day I went to the gas station late at night, and two of my friends, one of them was actually in the band with my boyfriend at the time, and his girlfriend ran into me at the gas station about 3 a.m. And my arms were covered in blood. So I went to go pay for my cigarettes, and I had blood all over from injecting. And I didn't know. So the next day I woke up, and she's amazing for having done this. She went home after that, stayed up all night, uh, found an affordable rehab in Austin that I could go to, did all the footwork for my mom. So she could just be like, look, Edana's in trouble again. She needs to get help. Found this place. So she did everything. It was amazing. But I wake up to somebody jumping on my bed and just saying, hey, you're going to treatment. And, you know, your boyfriend and your mom are downstairs. And I told them everything. Well, she didn't fully know everything, but my boyfriend would soon learn when they did the intake at the treatment facility. Um, and he learned that I was smoking meth at times. I would smoke meth to come down. Oh shit, already that late. Okay. So I apologize, you guys. Willie just let me know I have 5 minutes, and I've really gone on way too long. So I'm going to try to pack this up. So that time I wasn't ready. You know, I think I was 23 at the time. In my opinion, I was way too young, yada, yada. So wasn't really ready to get better. Then I quickly got into stronger opiates, including heroin. Now that time back then I had only done it a couple of times, and the first time I OD'd, and the girl told me if I didn't wake, she told me the next day, if you hadn't have woke up, I was going to drag you out to the dumpster because I'm not going to lose my kid over you. So it was just that kind of life that I was living. Um, I didn't have any clean time or anything after that, but I would not get back into cocaine. I did have my first child and only child at the age of 28. I had some complications associated with the C-section and had to get on pain pills. I mean, because Lord knows I was super excited about it, but I really had gotten it back, was doing better, was away from the hard drugs. But now I was in need for once of my favorite drug, which is opiates. And it was really, really bad. It was my jam was like 40 a day, like just really bad. Um, I would end up going to 4 detox centers during that time and eventually ended up at a 30-day treatment center where I would go on to have a year and a half of recovery. And I was very happy. Um, and all things were good. Then we moved from Austin to Phoenix and away from all of my friends and family. And I quickly picked up alcohol. Though alcohol was always present. In fact, I should say that I've actually, even though all the treatment centers that I've gone to, that I was in, put in there for drug use, I've never been able to be treated for drugs. I had to be treated for the alcohol because the alcohol was so excessive. So I would just have to come off heroin on my own. It was really gnarly. So um, moved to Phoenix, quickly picked up alcohol. First couple of years, it was okay, but I really thought that I could get away with just drinking because I was never big into hangovers and stuff. That's why I picked drugs. So, I just thought it would work, but I think in the back of my mind, I knew it wouldn't. Fast forward 4.5 years later, I've become such an extreme isolator. I haven't left the house in 3 years because I've become completely frightened of people all these years through my addiction, telling myself really, really horrible self talk, just really bad self talk. So it was bad. I wouldn't leave the house and was consuming insane amounts of alcohol, as well as Adderall and Valium, and tons of weed. So I would end up, excuse me, in treatment January 17th, 2020. I would be released March 2020 into the introduction of COVID and the COVID restrictions. So my entire uh, relapse plan, recovery plan just went to shit. The gyms weren't open for me to go to. Meetings weren't available. And this little isolator just sank right back deep into isolation, not being able to break the habits that needed so badly to be broken. And I would end up relapsing after about 4 months. And I would go back out June, July, August, September, October. My clean and sober date is November 9th of 2021. And that's when I got clean and sober for good. So I'm now at almost 6 months and I'm happy. There's days that are really, really difficult, but they pale in comparison to the miserable life of addiction. Um, it, I was an all day, everyday user since 16 years old. Um, so being without it and not being able to numb it can be, overwhelming at times. So things that I do to make sure that everything sticks is I have to get my fitness in. Now, first few months, I didn't do great with that. Um, but now I have a very good regimen that I've been doing for several months, and that helps me a really great deal. I do AA. There's all different ways that people heal, but AA definitely works for me. I have a great sponsor. And interestingly enough, IG, the Instagram community, the alcohol free, the drug free community on there is just insane. So all of my feed that I see every day is just inspirational stuff and other people getting better and inspiring me. Um, so I never thought social media would help me, but in this aspect, it really has. So um, I'm living a better life today, and I'm very proud of where I'm at, and I'm most excited about where it's all going to take me. And I'm sorry that wasn't the best interview. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is recovering_hooligan. Um, there's just a really great community of sober people. If you're not involved, I really encourage you to get more involved. And I can tell you some great people to follow.